have to own your audience. You have to have people coming from these various outer points to your hub. Your hub should be a domain that you own, preferably one that should have your own name on it. I do have michaelpinto.com, but I have several other hubs. But there should be a point that you can back. The other thing is also, other services can be very fickle. For example, I have a friend who's an adult photographer, and they happen to put some photos on Flickr, and some crazy religious nutcase complained about it. That person, after she invested a little bit over a year of her time uploading all of her images, gathering this great community of people who were just dying to see the photos, she had to start from scratch all over again. And that's kind of the lesson of, you've got to own your own hub. If she had her own website where she was pushing people from either Twitter, Flickr, MySpace to her website, it's very dangerous. These platforms change all the time, they get dated. There's what's known as a social graph, which is your network of friends. And the problem is when you have that network of friends on Facebook or Flickr or Twitter, those services, and they make all their money, they own your social graph. So what you've got to do is, and the other thing is also, when you're hanging out spending all of your time on those services, you're making money for that platform. So you want to be able to drive people back to your site. I'll give you even like kind of a basic example. I had a writer who was doing work for me this summer, and here you are, you're on fanboy.com. You might not get, it's not the biggest way, it's not TechCrunch, but there are enough people reading it. So what I do for all my writers is I always give them a chance at the bottom about me, and it's usually Joe Schmo's a writer, blah 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 blah, and I always give them the opportunity to link back to their own site. He's in college. He did not have his own site. He quickly made up a Twitter account, but he should have had that site to capture those followers from that exposure. And the other thing is also, fame is kind of a fickle thing. You may wander into the spotlight accidentally. If you do, you want to be able to send people back to your site and somehow take advantage of it.
Thank you so much, Michael. So, my portion is a little sillier than Michael's portion, and it's how to learn how to become famous on the internet by looking at Kanye West, who was in the news recently, I heard.
Just once or twice.
Just once or twice.
I'm sorry, I'm going to let you go on with your panel in just a second, but first I got to say...
I wish I had helped you plan that. So the first rule we can learn from Kanye West, and I actually talked about this last year in a similar panel I was in, is that don't be a clown. There are two types of fame online, I think. There's clown fame, where you're famous for basically being an idiot, where people laugh at you. And there's influence fame, where you're famous for influencing people's perspectives. Now, sometimes clown fame is accidental. Like with, do you remember the Garugamesh guy who was in the SakureCon video? Basically a perfectly nice guy who accidentally became famous because he became an internet meme.
Better example, Star Wars kid. I still feel bad about that kid. I gotta tell you. Or New Manila guy.
He goes to the dentist. Would that be like clown? Because like, it only became famous because it was really like one of those moments where it was so awkward you had to keep watching it.
Right.
The kid was literally just drugged up in the back of the car, and you kept watching it because it wasn't good. It was just a horrible, horrible, horrible thing, and you were like, I can't. It was like a car accident. You couldn't stop watching it, and you knew you shouldn't be. You knew this person should be reported, but you kept watching the video over and over again.
Right.
That's an example of like, don't be a clown.
Well, we'll hold questions until the end, moving forward. But maybe I'll back up a little bit.
Move the mic.
Okay.
Might be the mixer balance.
Okay, so you should always aspire.
Move
turn the gain
it a
down?
little forward. Yeah.
He's gonna fix it.
Turn the gain on your mics down.
Thank you for your patience.
Well, it seems... Okay, so I'll... Should I keep going? Okay. Just ignore the weird alien noises. So you should always aspire to be influence famous instead of clown famous, because influence famous means that you can actually build upon it in the future. And as Michael talked about, it's better to have a smaller quality of people you influence versus a really large percentage of people who know who you are, but who really just, like you because you were in a funny video or you became an internet meme. A good example of this is, if I was an artist, I'd rather be famous to 5 well-respected art gallery owners than 5,000 Naruto fans who love my fan art online. The next lesson we can learn from Kanye is to seize current trends but build for the future. Now, this is a small thing I threw together. I spent the last year working on an iPhone game that's kind of like Phoenix Wright. It's for bartending. And shameless plug, visit our booth later this weekend. We'll have some great stuff. But anyways, the point is that no matter what you're doing, if you're in tune with what's going on with current events or with pop culture, you can kind of take that, apply it to what you're doing, and get a lot of extra attention in the short term. For example, I threw this little ad together with Phoenix Wright and Kanye West interrupting him. I had our games artist draw Kanye in a manga style. So things like that. If you just stay in tune, and every time an internet meme pops up or something cool happens, just think about how to apply it to what you're doing. If you're an artist and there's a news story that just captures your heart, then draw your own cool take on it and put it out there. It'll get a lot more attention than creating something timeless. However, while you should do that for small boosts in the short term, if you're thinking long term, you should always focus on where the trends are going. If you're playing a first-person shooter and a zombie is zipping across the screen, you don't aim to where the zombie's at. You try to guess where it's going to be like a second from now and shoot there. It's the same for building projects and become famous in the future. When I started my first successful site, theotaku.com, anime just started taking off. It wasn't as popular as it is now. It's much harder now to create a super popular anime site because it's already kind of at a certain maturity level. The next thing to talk about is to promote at almost every opportunity. I'm guilty of this too, but a lot of people are afraid to talk about what they're working on because they either don't want people to steal their ideas or they're afraid of getting feedback, because sometimes getting negative feedback can make you feel bad.
Can kill a project. Bosses hear about it. Things like that.
Right. But the two arguments on that. One, if you're working on a project that's so easy to steal, then it'll be easy to steal after you're done with it, just as easy as it is before. So you should always work on things where you have a unique skill set that there are very high barriers for people to copy you. And two, I've heard of so many more projects failing because they didn't get adequate feedback and no one told them it was a bad idea, than projects where someone stole the idea and that's how they didn't become successful. The next tip is to keep your head up high, no matter what happens. There are 2 types of projects that you should work on to become internet famous. One are small projects, where you can bang them out every single week if you're an artist, or if you're a web creator, or a Flash game designer. Just constantly create small micro projects to experiment with and keep your skill set going. But more importantly, you should also mix that in with big projects where you put all of your time and all of your energy and all of your money, and it could be 6 months of hard work. And sometimes, or most of the times, those projects fail. And you have to keep your head up high because the 2 things that are most important in your career are 1, your skill set, and 2 is who you know. And working on big projects, even if they fail, you've expanded your skill set and you've expanded who you know. So I'd much rather be the guy who